Legends and popular tales are often born of great historical events or individuals. Stories that have passed through history, received their fair share of exaggeration, and eventually wound up written down by a scholar or two collecting dust on a bookshelf. Yet sometimes, it doesn't take a great event or a famous individual for a legend to be born. Sometimes, it doesn't even need the ages to pass through. Sometimes all you need is a graveyard, a couple of gravediggers, and an unlikely encounter.
I hate this job.
It ain't so bad. Keeps me in shape at least.
Oh yeah? What shape is that exactly?
Shut up.
Anyway, I'm really hoping we can wrap this up early tonight because...
Because what?
What is that?
What? Where?
Right there. Do you see that bird?
Where? Whoa. Okay. That's one hell of a bird.
What on earth is that thing?
It was on November 12th in the fall of 1966 when a group of gravediggers from Clendenin, West Virginia saw something large soar over their heads. They couldn't quite make out the details, but the large winged creature was impossible to miss. It hovered for a minute and then vanished, but not for long. 3 days from then, Roger and Linda Scarnary are driving down Route 62 with Steve and Mary Millett in their car, close to midnight. Out of nowhere, on the road in front of them, a creature appeared. They would describe it as a large flying man with 10-foot wings, mentioning how it would try to avoid the lights from their car. They stepped on the gas, and the creature took flight. It followed no matter how fast they went, up to 100 miles per hour. It hovered above their car before suddenly vanishing, presumably returning back to the so-called TNT area, a former World War II munitions plant located near Point Pleasant. The two couples weren't exactly sure what they saw. Their descriptions were even slightly different, but they were certainly sure about one thing. This needed to be reported, and so they called the police. The deputies dispatched that night didn't find anything, and yet, despite that, this incident was about to set off an avalanche. The Gettysburg Times reported that in just 3 days after the original encounter, 8 additional sightings took place, including 2 firemen who mentioned seeing a large bird with glowing red eyes. Among more famous sightings was perhaps the local contractor Newell Partridge, who informed the Mason County Sheriff George Johnson about a creature in a nearby field. Shining a flashlight at it, its eyes glowed like 2 bicycle reflectors, and apparently he also made a note of strange buzzing noises and patterns appearing on his television, as well as the mysterious disappearance of his German Shepherd, which he attributed to the monster. The sheriff simply thought the sightings were of an unusually large heron, but things were now seemingly in motion that couldn't be stopped. In the following year, over 100 sightings got reported in the area of Point Pleasant. News reports, gossip, and an anonymous newspaper editor, seemingly feeling inspired by the at that time very popular Batman comic series, dubbed the creature the Mothman. Of course, rational minds were trying to find an explanation among all this. Wildlife biologist Robert L. Smith said the descriptions and sightings all fit an animal called the sandhill crane, a relatively large bird with red coloring around its head. Others speculated the reflective eyes could have been those of a barn owl, but then, well, things took a turn for the worst. Built in 1928, the Silver Bridge was a structure connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio. For almost 40 years, it stood strong until that one cold wintry day of 1967, when it would cease to do so. It was on December 15th when a part of the structure snapped, causing the bridge to undergo catastrophic failure and collapse, causing cars to crash into the freezing water below. 46 people lost their lives in that terrible tragedy, and with this happening among the Mothman craze, it wasn't long before some people made the connection. Several reports came forth of the Mothman hovering around the bridge in days prior, perhaps signaling the impending catastrophe. While after this event, the number of sightings steadily declined, they never quite stopped. In fact, they have continued up to present day, with reports as recent as 2020 placing the creature near the Chicago O'Hare Airport. Now of course, just as with any legend of this sort, different individuals tend to describe their experiences in different ways, so there aren't many things one could say about the Mothman with underlying certainty. Luckily, some threads tend to overlap, so we can at least draw from those. The Mothman is the size of a tall human, somewhere between 6 to 7 feet, or around 2 meters tall, with a wingspan of just around 10 feet, or 3 meters. Its most iconic part are of course the two glowing red eyes, which act as reflectors if shone upon by bright light. While being a clumsy runner, once it takes flight, few things can escape it since it can seemingly fly up to 100 miles per hour, soaring through the skies above woodland areas from what is seemingly its point of origin near Point Pleasant, all across the northwestern part of the US. Naturally, many things about it remain unknown. Some say it's an alien, others an undiscovered animal. Some claim it can induce strange hallucinations, such as in the 2002 media depiction called Mothman Prophecies. And some even link its appearances to other natural disasters around the world, like Chernobyl, the Mexican swine flu outbreak, and the Fukushima disaster. Now if all this just sounds crazy to you, you're not alone, as many don't share in the belief of this legend. Certain outlets tend to exaggerate the number of actual encounters greatly, and over the years, many have proposed rational explanations for this creature, ranging from large birds, a prankster living in the TNT area, to mass hysteria. At the end of the day, at least the people from Point Pleasant managed to make something good off of this, as since 2002, they have been hosting an annual Mothman festival, which regularly attracts over 10,000 people to this otherwise completely ordinary city. But that brings us to the end of the video, so I really hope you enjoyed and have something fun to think about the next time you're trying to fall asleep. If you liked this video, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All of those would be very much appreciated. And if there are other similar creatures you'd want me to cover, make sure to leave those down in the comments as well. I would very much like to read them. Now with that, I'm gonna wish you all a beautiful rest of today, and I'll see you in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.